I want to ask you about Democratic Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett. Last week, as you know, there was a failed censure effort over her text with Epstein during an oversight hearing in 2019. He was a known sex offender. She acknowledged Epstein's influence in her line of questioning during that hearing on this show when we had her on, but would not say it was an error in judgment. Here's how you defended her on the House floor last week, so our viewers can listen.
However ill-advised it may have been, she took a phone call from one of her constituents. They've arraigned a Democratic member for taking a phone call from her constituent, Jeffrey Epstein, in the middle of a hearing. And of course, I don't think there's any rule here against taking phone calls in a hearing.
And to be clear, she initiated the text chain on that day.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. Hope you all are having a fine day. Those of you coming over from watching The Watchers are probably coming soon. I may not have ever seen this show before. I welcome you. I hope you'll enjoy. My content is very similar in style. I am also, those of you who are new here, I'm a New York attorney who's looking to retire. Been practicing for 20 years. And I'm also a political commentator. And this is the following program. I'm not exactly Robert Gouveia. No one is. My man is a legend. And I would never aspire to try to be Robert Gouveia, but I do try to update you about what's going on in the world and why it's probably happening and give you some perspective on that. So those of you who are new, I thank you for joining me. And if you like what you see, I urge you, please hit like and subscribe and hit the bell if you want to get notifications for where you can find me yet again. I've got three main topics that I really want to cover with you all this evening. First and foremost, I want to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene, the notorious member of the House from Georgia, who announced her retirement, much to the surprise of many people, after her recent falling out with President Trump, where everyone knows she was one of the staunchest Trump supporters, diehard MAGA all the way, and recently, over the last several weeks, some could tie it back to maybe a couple of months even, has had a very public falling out with Donald Trump, and now she's announced that she will be resigning effective January 5th, 2026. I also plan on talking with you about Seditious Six member Mark Kelly and him being under investigation. And finally, I want to cover with you guys the developments on X, which this is kind of crazy. I think X rolled this out without anyone expecting it. What X did was they said, hey, you know what? We're going to add some new feature here. This is just a new feature where you can actually see, where people are from. And the information that they glean is coming from the location of the individual is when they set it up, as well as where they check in on the account from. And a lot of political and a lot of folks were exposed. Some particularly some political commentators who are routinely talking about American politics and seem like they're really far from America. And it's like, dude, what's going on? What's going on? This is it's a very big brouhaha. I'm going to go through some of the names, and they're on both sides of the aisle. There's a lot of MAGA accounts, America only accounts, which are just like, Bangladesh? Really? Bangladesh? And there was we'll talk also a little bit about how there was a brief pause, and that the X seemed to be like, okay, we're not going to be doing this, and they changed their policy, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So that's basically what I plan to cover with you tonight. Again, if you're new here, please bear in mind that this is not at all a cult. If you become a follower of the show, that doesn't mean you're joining a cult. I am certainly not not the leader of the following. I am just a host, but I will bear in mind with you, I am a little bit more interactive with the audience. So Robert is like Mr. News. He waits till after the show. I like actually engaging with the audience a little bit during the show, because I feel like that sort of is one way I could try to catch up to him as far as because that dude is talented. All right. Well, anyhow, with that in mind, I'm going to start with the first with the first story for tonight, and that really is Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, "I'm out of here. No more. Adios. We're done here. I've done my time. We're not doing this anymore." Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, former Trump loyalist, says she is resigning from Congress. Not today. Very careful to say, not today. I'm not out of here today. No. Not today. Not today. No. But effective January 5th, I'm out. Now, this is an interesting thing, which plays into some of the questions which cynics of MTG have of her resignation, and we'll get into that. No, we're gonna get into that. I am curious where you stand on this. Are you someone who's a Marjorie Taylor Greene loyalist? Most people from MAGA, if you asked them 6 months ago, most people in MAGA, I think, overwhelming majority, were big fans of MTG. Not everyone. You know, different strokes, different folks. Some people may not have liked her style. They might have thought she was a bit too brusque or, had other issues with her. But most people seem to be on the MTG train. Certainly a lot more than there are today. There are some who have stayed very loyal to her on that train, even in the face of her conflict with Donald Trump. But now she's saying she's out. She's done. Which is okay. All right. We'll look a little bit at that video soon. Washington Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, a loyal supporter turned critic of President Donald Trump, who faces political retribution if she sought re-election, said Friday she is resigning from Congress in January. Greene, in more than a 10-minute video posted online, explained her decision and said she didn't want her congressional district, quote, to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president we all fought for, she said. Greene's resignation followed a public falling out with Trump in recent months, as the congresswoman criticized him for his stance on files related to Jeffrey Epstein, along with foreign policy and health care. Trump branded her a traitor and wacky, said he would endorse a challenger against her when she ran for re-election next year. She said her last day would be January 5th, 2026. By default, if a member of the House announces their resignation and does not give a set date, the resignation takes place immediately. So she was very careful to make sure that her resignation does not take place immediately, but will wait until January 5th, 2026. Why? What happens on January 5th? You have to ask yourself, why then? Why would you wait till January 5th? It's a very peculiar, it's kind of random date. I guess she would say it's the first expected date of them coming in in 2026, but it's all the same session from like 2025. I mean, it's not like it's a new session. So in that sense, that doesn't seem, so why are you waiting? Why are you waiting? And that's an interesting question. The White House did not immediately respond to a message seeking comment Friday night. In a brief phone call Friday night, Trump told ABC News that Greene's resignation is, quote, great news for the country. He said he had no plans to speak with Greene, but wishes her well. Greene was one of the most vocal and visible sports Trump's Make America Great Again politics, and she embraced some of his unapologetic political style. Her break with him was a notable fissure in his grip over conservatives. Was it? But was it? Was it really? But was it? I think that's wishful thinking on the AP's part. particularly his most ardent base. Again, no. But her decision to step down in the face of his opposition put her on the same track as many of the more moderate establishment Republicans before her who went crosswise with Trump. Well, no one would have called her a moderate a year ago. So just because she's breaking with Trump, now I guess we're saying that she's not a moderate, but she's aligning with the moderates in breaking with him. Perhaps that's what it's supposed to say. Not that I would call those folks moderates. I would just call them Democrats in red clothing. The congresswoman who recorded the video announcing her resignation while sitting in her living room wearing a cross necklace with Christmas tree and a peace lily plant behind her said, quote, "My life is filled with happiness, and my true convictions remain unchanged because my self-worth is not defined by a man, but instead by God." That's what she said. Not defined by a man, but by God. We should hear from her. Should we, do they have the whole thing here? I have a 2-minute clip from her. Is this the whole thing? If this is the whole, definitely didn't want that. Definitely did not want that. If that is the full thing, maybe this is just 25 seconds. What do you got here? What do you got here for me?
Until then, I'm going back to the people that I love, to live my life to the fullest as I always have, and I look forward to a new path ahead. I'll be resigning from office with my last day being January 5th, 2026, and I look forward to seeing many of you again sometime in the future. May God bless you all, and may God bless America.
All right. So there you've heard it. It's not just the AP or me who's trying to sell it to you, but you heard it from her own mouth. Unless that was very convincing. Unless that was very, very compelling AI. Seems pretty clear that she's out, that she's gone. So folks may ask why January 5th. That's what a lot of people may ask. Some folks may ask that. We're getting to that. First, I want to cover this. Nanonose hit me up with 5 new members to the following. God bless you, Nanonose. Following 5 people brought into the following, courtesy of Nanonose. Oh no, I didn't do this. I just who we got here. I have a 30-minute call. If we hit our goal, I usually set the goal up before this show, but working the kinks out on this early time. Working the kinks out on that. There you go. All right. So the following 5 people brought in courtesy of Nanonose. That would include Gen X Boomer, Denise Chayarn Bridell. Denise Chayarn? I don't know. Bridell. Well, Denise. We're going to call you Denise. In the following, you will be known as Denise. And Brewholic 101, as well as Iowa Backyard Cam and Shelly Anderson 3010. Welcome to the following. Please bear in mind that the following is not at all a cult type of cult. Especially if you're new here, people are going to try and lie to you. They're going to say, "Oh yeah, now you're in a cult." It's not at all a cult type of cult. Not at all. And the House should expel her before her pension. That we're gonna get to her pension. We're coming there very soon. I kind of agree. Although I'm a fan of Jewish space lasers, not her. Who wouldn't be a fan of Jewish space lasers? Here is Marjorie Taylor Greene trying to clarify for the QAnon amongst her, which I think that it's wise for her to dispel the QAnon, because QAnon, it's not like anyone who supported Marjorie Taylor Greene is QAnon. No, that's a relatively small percentage, but all the QAnon would support her. That's for sure. She would be one of their favorites. So here we go with her saying, "Don't start mistaking this for 4D chess."
Through it all, I never changed or went back on my campaign promises, and only disagreed in a few areas, like my stance against H-1Bs replacing American jobs, AI state moratoriums.
I happen to agree with her on that. I don't like the idea of H-1Bs replacing us. I disagree with Trump on that particular issue. I think that he made the wrong call there. The thing is, there are going to be some policies that I disagree with the president as much as I may admire that president. There are going to be certain policies he's going to issue, which I'm not really going to be such a big fan of.
Debt for life 50-year mortgage scams, standing strongly against all involvement in foreign wars and demanding the release of the Epstein files.
All right, we got the release of the Epstein files. What was that again? Give me your list. I want to hear that list one more time.
I'm standing strongly against all involvement in foreign wars.
Stand strongly against all involvement in foreign wars? As a general rule, that should definitely be our starting point. And I would not make such a global statement that there's no such thing. I think World War II was a really good one. It was a really good one for us being involved. I'm hard pressed to think of another one since then that was a good idea. It had a lot of wars since then. Most of them were probably a bad idea for us to get involved in. But yeah, all wars, that's a bit extreme.
And demanding the release of the Epstein files. Other than that, my voting record has been solidly with my party and the president. Loyalty should be a two-way street, and we should be able to vote our conscience and represent our district's interests because our job title is literally representative.
Your job title is representative. You're representative from the district. Okay.
America first should mean America first and only Americans first, with no other foreign country ever being attached to America first in our halls of government.
I agree with that 100%.
Standing up for American women who were raped at 14 years old, trafficked and used by rich, powerful men should not result in me being called a traitor.
That's not what resulted in you being called a traitor. That's not. Why would that be? That's no one. See, this to me feels a little bit disingenuous from MTG because that's not why. I know that Trump had like an issue in the summer. We saw him say some things which I personally took offense to. When he was saying that if you're still screaming about the Epstein files, and he did this, you can't deny it. You know, we all remember it. He said, if you're still screaming about the Epstein files, then you don't care about this administration, and I don't need your support. That was offensive. I took offense to it. You likely took offense to it. Most of us took offense to it. And what you learn to do is you learn to say, okay, all right, he's dealing right now. And it's sort of like, when a lot of parents in a moment of poor parenting will be like, if you don't stop talking, I'm never going to cook supper for you again. It's like, okay. It's poor parenting. It's not the way I was raised. I've seen it happen. I've seen folks do it. It's not the way I raised my kids, but I've seen folks do it. And they just sort of make like these idle comments that you're sort of focusing. To get all hung up on that is really focusing on the most negative elements of Trump, because he doesn't really mean it. It's his way of saying, can you just F and drop it already? And we were right for saying, no, we're not going to drop it. We're not going to drop it. But to make it sound as if this had her labeled as some sort of traitor, or that she was standing alone on an island there, that she was like, the brave voice. It's like, yeah, okay, she definitely kept screaming to get the Epstein files. That's true. But to say that this is what made her uniquely branded a traitor, no, that's not true. That's revisionist history. So I think that she's looking here for a little extra sympathy as far as in an area that she feels is relatively popular, on taking a position that she knows is a popular position, because everyone wanted those Epstein files released.
And threatened by the President of the United States, whom I fought for. However, while yes, hurtful, My heart remains filled with joy. My life is filled with happiness.
And your bank account remains filled with joy also, which is why some people have a lot of issues with some of the things that's been happening around her.
My true convictions remain unchanged because my self-worth is not defined by a man.
It's defined by a bank account. All right, it's very cynical. I know that's very cynical. I conducted a poll when I announced this show in the community tab. I conducted a poll to ask people whether they, are team. Are you still team MTG or not, or you never were? Like where you at on that? I was very, very curious where you were. Like how? Because I mean, when I say you, I mean you as a collective, which and where you stand individually, I don't even know, but where the overall collective, because I look at my audience as being 90% MAGA at least. It's at least MAGA, 90% MAGA. So I was very, very curious to see what my audience thought of this of this, and that's why I said MTG was and remains one of the good ones. Or I liked MTG, but her fallout showed me an ugly side, or I never liked her or trusted her. And I'm just going to pull this up real quick so you get a feel for where, at least where my audience stands, which is 38% say MTG was and remains one of the good ones. 40% saying I liked MTG, her fallout here has shown me an ugly side. So it's really neck and neck there. I mean, that's 80% of the audience which, liked her at one point, and others are seeing an ugly side to her now, and 21% saying never liked or trusted her. So I'm not surprised by that. That's actually one of the polls that I probably could have predicted the outcome beforehand. But let's go forward with MTG here.
But instead by God, who created everything in existence.
Okay. So, and I think that she's genuinely I would think that she's probably a devout Christian. I can't, none of us can look into her heart, but I think she's sincere in that. That doesn't mean there's not a side motivation with respect to her bank account. And someone can have, I would think, both. Someone can have both. I don't think that there's a conflict necessarily in that, although whether or not, I think that she's guided by her religious beliefs. If you ask me my ultimate, just if I had to, gun to my head, what do I think? I think that she's a devout Christian who at the same time cares a great deal about her wealth, her personal wealth. And I think America comes third. Now that's pretty good. I would assume her family probably comes before them, but that could be tied into wealth and taking care of family. So I don't think that she's, a terrible, evil human being, but I do have questions about the timing of what she did here and some issues with what's happening here. She got very defensive when she saw how people responded, and some people did respond to her very negatively. Here's why people responded to her negatively. Comments like this, which got 1,500 likes, saying her 5-year investment date is January 3rd, 2026. That's the date that her career as a member of the House vests. So, in other words, and then she's resigning as of January 5th, 2026, 2 days after she vests, her pension vests. At age 62, she will receive a lifelong pension for 5 years of service. So as if she had been serving there forever because she served for 5 years. She would not get that if she leaves now. She has to wait until January 5th. She went from a net worth, I think it's supposed to be net worth, not network. She went from a net worth of $700,000 to roughly $25 million in 4.5 years. Her last payday is January 2nd, 2026. Since she is resigning, she doesn't have to file her financials. Yeah, she's a real principled person. Like with everything in DC, follow the money. This got 1,500 likes. There have been other similar comments along this line, which was also what was raised. Frankly, that's why Wrestler Town here was saying earlier that the House should expel her before her pension. Like, oh, okay, you're out. All right. I mean, and I could sort of understand that. What if she would have just woken up on January 5th and just resigned today? So to punish her for making the announcement, I don't know that that's like a good idea. I understand where Wrestler Town's coming from, because there's a certain frustration, because what she's doing here is transparent. It's transparent that she's looking to basically let me feather that golden nest of mine, and then I'm going to get out of here. I mean, there's no other way to look at this. That's why you're picking January 5th. So she's sitting here painting as if she's nobly trying to spare her constituents from a painful primary. She got very defensive when she saw these attacks. This is her saying, everyone just runs their mouth, but results are the only thing that matters to the American people. Smears, lies, attacks, and name-calling is childish behavior, divisive, and bad for our country. Memes and red meat rants do nothing. Actions speak louder than words. Be quiet, be kind, be humble, and fix the real problems that are crushing Americans, not foreign country problems, not the donors' problems, the American people's problems that both political parties created and dumped onto the American people. Where do you guys stand on her? What do you guys think? Because there's more reasons to be a little bit suspicious. Maybe I'll save that. Maybe we'll have a poll that I'll set up for after I finish this, and we'll get your feedback on this. There's this that's coming down the pike. This is Representative Anna Paulina Luna.
All right, a quick update on our efforts to ban insider trading. So first of all,
Efforts to ban insider trading.
any member of Congress that's saying that it's not happening, A, is lying to you. Both Democrats and Republicans that are engaging in individual stock trades are getting on average 600% returns, outperforming, that's right, you heard the S&P. Not just that, we know it's illegal, but they are still doing it. So I just want to ask the American people, which I know that you're going to side with me on it, but do you really think a member of Congress can best represent foreign policy, especially if they're personally invested in the defense industry with their stock portfolios? And the answer is no. I'll give you a prime example. Right now, you have the administration that's about to secure a peace deal between Russia, Ukraine, and the United States. This has massive economic opportunity for all citizens involved, and also who doesn't love peace unless you're a total sociopath. The point is that you actually have our own side, which is why I'm making this video to call it out. Our own GOP senators that are coming out against it. Let me give you a wild guess as to where they are personally invested with in regards to their stock portfolios. You guessed it, military industrial complex. All right,
Now, some folks like Dog Digger, I see you over there. I see you over there. Will say that the 25 million comes from her construction company. This is true. Mostly. I'm going to break down where she got her money. I'm not saying she got 25 million from stocks. Okay? I see folks I see you in the ghetto. I see you all screaming that it's not from insider trading, and that's true. Mostly. For the most part. I did some digging. I'm certainly not accusing her of doing $25 million worth of insider trading. I'm not accusing her of doing any insider trading. But to note the vast disparity in her wealth during that time, you wouldn't be screaming in her defense if it was Maxine Waters, right? You wouldn't be saying, "Oh, for the love of God." When someone goes to Congress for 5 years and sees their wealth increase by, what is it, 40 times, 40 times over, you sort of have to, if you're not asking the question. Wait, is it 40? That's not right. 10? Wait, be 7. You have to ask the question. You sort of got to think about it. Like, I understand that the construction company that she's a part owner in exploded. And perhaps that's because she became a public figure. So maybe she did it to become a public figure and help the construction company explode. Possible. Very possible. Maybe she became very maybe, the company, people like here, like, oh, and that's, and I wouldn't say even possible. I'd say likely. I would say likely. What I'll point out to you, though, is it's not all the construction company. There was some stock trading in amounts that exceed the net worth of most people who are watching this show. At least according to Hindustan Times, which clearly they know best, but it was the first one I came upon. I don't think that the numbers are probably close to accurate because I don't think they're relying on their own sourcing. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has recently announced her resignation. Here's what we know of her net worth. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has recently announced her resignation, saying, "I have too much respect and dignity, love my family too much to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president after he hatefully dumped tens of millions of dollars against me and tried to destroy me." Here's how her wealth accumulation aligns with her public service image. Reports like Quiver Quantitables have placed Greene's estimated net worth at $25 million as of October 2025. Her income taxes from investments, business endeavors, and her congressional pay. Her publicly disclosed portfolio includes $3.2 million in individual stocks. So just to bear in mind, she came in with a net worth of $700,000, and she's got a stock portfolio now of $3.2 million. Okay. Her primary source of wealth, however, it remains her 50% stake in Taylor Commercial Inc., a family-run construction business. And that's, that got her $700,000. And they have exploded over the last 5 years. And it would not be surprising to say, and I don't want anyone to infer from what I'm saying that I'm alleging she did anything nefarious with taking money through her construction company. I do not believe that happened. I genuinely believe that it's most likely that her construction company business exploded as a result of her attaining popularity. So people are like, oh, wow, I'm going to have Marjorie Taylor Greene build this building for me, or several buildings for me, several different I don't know, it could be entire palatial residential zones that her company was retained to build, that people were like, let me hire Marjorie Taylor Greene's company for that because I like Marjorie Taylor Greene, without there being anything underhanded under the table. It's very possible. And, every reason to believe that that's actually how she got the vast majority of the wealth. But 3.2 million is not a number to sneeze at. Greene's base salary, according to her congressional financial disclosures, company's net worth is valued between $5 million and $25 million per finance monthly. Greene's base congressional salary is $174,000 annually, which is modest compared to her overall portfolio, according to Business Insider. Greene also has earned $178,000 in book royalties in 2024 from her memoir, MTG, bringing her to the list of Congress's top earning authors. Greene has faced questions over her frequent trades. In April 2025, she reportedly bought shares in major companies like Amazon, Apple, Dell, Nike, and Palantir just before a 90-day tariff pause announced by Trump that significantly boosted markets, Yahoo Finance reported. According to Daily Beast, she insists that her advisor, not she herself, makes investment decisions. It's very possible. She maintains that her wealth was built primarily before she entered Congress. However, the Norwegian Standard reported that Greene's net worth was estimated to be just $700,000 before entering Congress in 2020. And she claims it hasn't in any way come from politics. And like I said, I don't know. I'm telling you what cynics are saying, and I'm definitely I'm not passing judgment because I have no way of knowing any more than what it says here. And I also know how biased against the right agencies like the Daily Beast and Yahoo Finance are likely to be. That they're going to look to try and portray it as if she was crooked and that's how she made her money. Green's public decision to resign comes just as Donald Trump publicly withdrew his endorsement of her, citing political differences and suggesting a primary challenger may emerge. This is a significant break from a longstanding alliance, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so when you consider, these are the allegations that are out there. So the allegations basically boil down to, if you want to try and look at Marjorie Taylor Greene in the most negative light possible, and I'm not even going to weigh on this. I'm not going to weigh where I stand, because I just sort of feel like I don't know, and I have no way of knowing. So you want to look at her as in the most negative light possible. You say, here's a woman who came into Congress with a net worth of $700,000, is leaving with $25 million, and who knows how the heck she made that money, through her company or whatever, stock trading. That was $3 million worth of stocks that she has now, which is it's 4.5 times the amount of her entire net worth 5 years ago she has just in the stock market. And and if you're questioning whether or not she's about the money, well, just look at the fact that she's waiting to retire until 2 days after she earns a lifetime pension, and that she knows she's going to get her butt kicked in the next primary. So she basically decides, let me get out now while it's good. Don't have to give any financial disclosures, because I'm getting out as shortly into 2026 as possible. Still get that last paycheck, which comes out on January 2nd, and then I'm gone. And I can fly, and I'll go off and live a happy life with my family and my religion, and say adios. And I'll still have my name out there, and I'll put feelers out for what I can do in public life in that respect, because it would be ridiculous to just sort of throw that away unless she has other pressing needs which force her to have those types of engagements. That's the negative way of looking at Marjorie Taylor Greene. And you would follow that up likely with saying she was always a grifter, that all she ever cared about was herself, and that she felt like she could tap into you and others like you to get you to love her and to think that she's on your side, when in reality she was always about herself. And you could see that based on her flourishing net wealth and how she's exiting now, and lashing at Trump and playing herself as the martyr and the victim. That's the most negative way you can look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you want to look at her in the most positive way possible, you would say, this is a woman who fought for MAGA from the day she got in. Even before she got in, she was being accused one side or another of coming after her. All these different snakes in DC are showing her no loyalty whatsoever. Her company did well, and that's natural and normal considering the fact that she became a public figure who was very popular with MAGA. And yeah, I mean, as far as it's hard to understand the stocks, and those are probably being misrepresented by leftist framing to try and portray her as if she's doing something illicit and nefarious. That she's basically, she says that she didn't even know what was doing. Then she probably got hooked up with a really shrewd investor who was basically investing on her behalf. And with respect to her exiting now, she's basically feels like she's dealing with all sorts of grief that she never had before, where even members of her own side are getting angry at her because she's not willing to bend the knee to Trump. And accordingly, she's feeling a lot of heat. She's not happy with the situation. So she's just like, let me get out of here. I'm done with this. I did my time here, and nothing's ever going to change here. So I stood up for what was right, and I'll continue to stand up for what's right. But I know when this fight isn't really working anymore for me, and it's time for me to get out. And if I'm leaving, I'm an idiot if I leave a month before I get a pension kick in for the rest of my life. So I have to be stupid to resign now. Like you would leave a month early? Would you do that? Like, why would anyone do that? Like, you have to be pretty stupid to leave before the pension kicks in. So as soon as the pension kicks in, that she's basically saying, I did my time. What have you done? Have you done more for America? I've done more than you have, likely. Most people, she can say that too. That's the best way I think you can defend Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think this truth is probably somewhere in the middle there. Whether it's more towards the first version or the second version, I'll leave that for you to decide. But Yeah. I mean, and I think no one would give up that cash. Why would you do it? Why wouldn't you just, call in sick for a month and then invest? Now, I'm about to go to this next because I know a lot of people have questions. How does this work now? Because we're not done with the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing, not by a long shot. There's a lot more to this. I wanted to give you both sides of Marjorie Taylor Greene, but there's more to come on this story, which I want to break down for you. Let me get a couple of chats first, and then I'll tell you how there's a ripple effect, which should be concerning potentially to the entire GOP, if these concerns are legitimate. God, family, neighbor, country. If you take care of the grassroots, then the country will gain from it. Grassroots is God, family, neighbor. Vote at the grassroots, i.e. local and state elections and midterms. Huge fan of this. Unfortunately, we as a party tend to suck at this. Democrats come out much better in smaller elections than we do. Question is how to that is something which I think needs to change in the culture of MAGA. And I think it shouldn't be that challenging a thing to change in the culture of MAGA. I do not think that's that difficult a thing. I do think that I think that you basically can use God to help support our country. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, if in churches and synagogues across the country, there's a routine reminder as to the importance of supporting your country by actually getting your butt into a voting booth, that could be significant. It feels as if the only, and I could be mistaken on this, I don't know. Every time I envision a preacher getting up and encouraging their audience to get out and vote on those limited occasions that I picture it, where I've seen it, is when basically you'll have a black congregation. I'm thinking back to the support that Fannie Willis was able to garner, where they get into the importance of politics. But I don't know. I've never been. Most of y'all know that I'm Jewish. I don't know from. I've never attended a sermon, so I don't know. You tell me. In your local church, is there any encouragement to get out there and vote? I'm really curious about middle America, frankly, like rural places. Is there encouragement? Get out there and vote your butts off. Make sure that you do it. That's really the question. That's the question I have. I'm curious what you guys have to say on that. She wants her pension, never leave money on the table. Some of her money from her dad dying, inheriting his company. She changed after her divorce, dating Brian Glenn. Asked Zelensky about suit in the Oval. Yeah, and that could happen to the best. That could happen to the best of angels, right? Angels fall from heaven. They end up coming down here to earth, and they turn into something else. So too, you could have someone who comes in with the best of intentions, and perhaps they start to change based on the culture. So when I look back I'll tell you this much. When I look back at MTG's career, I'm not going to look back at her with anger and vitriol, or think that she was she came in there as some sort of grifter. I don't think she did. I don't think she did. I think that she was mistaken fairly often. My personal take on her is that she didn't come in there motivated by selfishness. Now maybe down the stretch she ended up becoming selfish. I don't know. I have no secret. I have no secret microscopic look into her heart that I can tell you. No, the thing is, her exit had put GOP supermajority at risk. Now they only have one vote advantage over Democrats. Tom Massey's that idiot can easily sabotage that. So I saw that it was at 219, 213. But we're going to get into that very, very, very. We're going to get into that soon. We're going to get into that soon, because there is a ripple effect that's coming, supposedly with MTG. A few other GOP members messaged us over the weekend saying that they too are considering retiring in the middle of the term. Here's one particularly exercised senior House Republican. Quote, this entire White House team has treated all members like garbage. All. And Mike Johnson has let it happen because he wanted it to happen. That is the sentiment of nearly all appropriators, authorizers, hawks, doves, rank and file. The arrogance of this White House team is off-putting to members who are run roughshod and threatened. They don't even allow little wins like announcing small grants or even responding from agencies. Not even the high profile. The regular rank and file random members are more upset than ever. Members know they're going into the minority after the midterms. Quote, more explosive early resignations are coming. It's a tinderbox. Morale has never been lower. Mike Johnson will be stripped of his gavel, and they will lose the majority before this term is out. That was a retweet. I was in a quote tweet on Punchbowl News saying what MTG got right, that the crux of MTG's message that Trump and House Republicans are abandoning all the president's priorities, falling into complacency, and are on the brink of squandering the razor-thin majority. So now there's a threat of there being a mass exodus. And frankly, when I read this quote here, I have no idea who said it. This sounds like a bunch of freaking whiny babies to me. I read this, I was like, grow the hell up. What are you, a bunch of children? You're a bunch of children. Yeah, it's not nice. Why is he not giving us more attention? Why can't we have more of a say? What the hell does that even mean? What does that mean? Why aren't you standing up and actually like being a man? I'm referring to both men and the women in Congress and the GOP. What the hell is this? We're all upset. More explosive than ever. There's more. I'm going to resign. See, this is another thing. I'll tell you that. And this is a reason to be angry at MTG. It's like, why would you have to resign now? Why wouldn't you announce your resignation coming that you're not running for re-election? Why would you resign? You could just not run for re-election. She said she doesn't want to put people through the negativity. And this is a reason to be genuinely cynical of MTG. All right, so she doesn't want to put her constituents through the negativity of a difficult primary. So just say you're not running for re-election. You don't have to resign. Ride out the term, which is another year. Why don't you ride out another year? Like, what does that even mean? So those of you who are standing there squarely defending MTG, and telling me, that she's acting with perfect moral virtue, I have to ask you, why is she resigning instead of just not running for re-election? You're not running for re-election, then you're saving him on the primary. But it's almost as if she's trying to, that's why I'm saying that she's playing kind of a martyr position here, where it's like, oh, I'm being chased out and harassed and whatever. She's like, you know what? I don't like the way this whole thing has happened here. My constituents voted for me to stay in here. I'm going to stay here for another year. The reason for her not stay there another year, if you want to be cynical, is she doesn't want to tender her financials. So the fact that she's resigning, and when she's resigning, does not play well if you're looking to defend MTG. At least you have to recognize that. It doesn't look good. It could be there's other reasons that she was reluctant to say, but I'm looking at you in the ghetto in particular. I'm watching the ghetto chat particularly now because I think the ghetto chat is more likely to support. And I refer to those of you who are new. I refer to the Rumble folks in Rumble as being the ghetto chat. I think you're more likely to be siding with MTG in this whole thing. And that's fine, but can you at least recognize that there's no reason for her to resign, that we understand? You can decide to not run for re-election without resigning. Now, Matt Gaetz, and Jay Firth is pointing out Matt Gaetz left abruptly as well. I think that you can give him an excuse that, like, hey, he was going to be AG and he stepped down to be AG and whatever. I don't know. The whole Matt Gaetz resignation sort of felt to me like he was the whole AG announcement almost seemed as if that Trump was trying to give him a way to resign. Like he wanted to resign and he gave him like a reason. But this whole thing here, this whole statement here, to me sounds like a bunch of one-A brats. We're very miserable. It's not nice. He's not listening to us. You and me, most of us, I don't think feel as if he abandoned the MAGA agenda. That's a very, very harsh assessment. Has he failed to live up to some of it? Yeah, a lot of there should be a lot more deportations. This whole Epstein saga played very poorly. The way it was handled, Pam Bondi has been an utter disappointment. And frankly, the indictments, we felt like there should be a lot more indictments against the left than what we've seen. And even two of those seem to go down in flames, at least temporarily today. I don't think that they're going to stay down in flames. Certainly not the Letitia James one. The James Comey one is a little bit more dangerous. I know that Robert Gouveia covered that on his show, so I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about that. But in case you missed it, Lindsay Halligan, who is was appointed, let's face it, in part because she was willing to go after Letitia James and James Comey. So she's the district attorney there, and the judge basically said, I'm dismissing these two cases because her appointment was improper, which is a very, very unorthodox and unusual step that she took in dismissing those two cases over what's purely a procedural issue. I don't want to spend very much time talking about that. But yeah, I think that's coming back to MTG. Just coming back to that, you have to ask yourself why did she have to resign? If she's purely for the nobility, why are you resigning? Some preachers do. So I assume this is in response to my question about whether preachers advocate going out and voting. The 501c is I think you mean 501c3 is a strangling noose. Preachers need to emphasize that God's hand provided a way for his will to be done through us if we prayerfully make our choice in the voting booth. Okay, no, I have no problem with that. I struggle to believe that a preacher getting up and spending 10 minutes exhorting his congregation to get out there and vote on, the Sunday before Election Day, and really exhorting them to do that for 10 minutes. I struggle to believe that that would jeopardize a 501c3. I don't think that's true. I don't think anyone really thinks, oh my gosh, that 10 minutes in his speech now, like the 25 years the church's been around, is going up in smoke. Like I think that might be a way people might claim. They might try to use it as a justification, but that doesn't mean that it's actually something that is a real serious threat hanging over their heads. I can't even imagine. I don't know why anyone at this point still would vote Democrats. If they win, they'll open our border again, 2, Obamacare, give to illegals, 2, bankruptcy, Social Security, and USA. Because they're fools. Because they cannot see 10 minutes down the road. These are the same people. It's the same people who think that it's long-term healthy to take a 10-year-old and convince them to Frankenstein their own bodies. It's like, why would you think this? It's because they're all about feeling good for the moment rather than feeling good, like actually being happy. So the primary argument is fake, so don't run for re-election. Bet she's getting married to Brian Glenn and he has a quitter streak, abandons her voters. Yeah, I think it was wrong. I think it's wrong for her to resign. I think it's wrong. So on this comment that Jake Sherman shared out about there being potential mutiny from the GOP with all these threats of resignation, MTG shared this out as being fact check true, but it's worse than people on this side of the bubble know when you talk to real Americans outside the wicked snow globe of Washington, D.C. Myself and many of my colleagues came courageously roaring into 2025 with legislation that matched the 2024 electoral mandate, only to be totally sidelined by Johnson under full obedience of the White House. Executive orders are temporary. Q memes have not obliterated the deep state, and my colleagues constantly trying to pass loyalty tests instead of demanding what is right won't help Americans pay their rent or stop corporations from buying up homes, buy their groceries, provide good paying jobs, and stop foreigners with visas from stealing their jobs, stop American tax dollars from funding foreign wars and causes, or rebuild the value of the dollar. Now, to be fair, all these things she lists here, for the most part, I pretty much agree with her. I don't know what she means by this part of the sentence here. This is a really long sentence. But obliterating the deep state is not something that can happen in a year, so I don't know what that means. I'm not sure what she's referring to with loyalty tests. I don't know what that means. I guess that means legislation, which shows that you're agreeing with Trump, I assume. What have you suggested to help Americans pay their rent? Stopping corporations from buying up homes, that would be good. That I agree with. The whole buy their groceries. I just gotta say this. I've said it before. I'm gonna say it a lot more in my life. I know this. The government's job is not to fix the economy. And I'm so tired of this. Now, the problem is that if you do nothing and you don't claim to be fixing the economy and actually do something productive, you're going to lose elections because people vote with their wallets. So if the economy is terrible, that's a disaster for an election. People are like, look, I'm broke under this president. I'm broke under this leadership, so I need to leave. So it frustrates me. I have to get off my chest, even though I know that politically they have to do something to help the economy or make Americans feel as if they're helping with the economy. I get that. It's really not supposed to be the function of Congress. So I can understand the need politically to help Americans buy their groceries. And not through handouts, because handouts is not handouts is a way to try and cripple the American consumer and make him more dependent on you. I don't know what this means. Provide good paying jobs and stop foreigners with visas from stealing their jobs. What that means is the way that Trump did it in 2017, when he finally got us out from being under the yoke of an 8-year Obama depression, or recession at least, which they say is not technically a recession. I think that it was 8 years of recession, because you don't have a 3% growth. I think that was technically always defined as a recession. So we had an 8-year recession under Obama. And how did Trump free it up? He freed it up by going out there and loosening up regulations. It was one of the massive things that he did. Frankly, if you're looking to help an American worker, tariffs are good for that. So you tell me, why didn't Congress approve his tariffs? Why is it that it has to be by EO? I don't even understand this. Like, that's not a complaint on Trump. It could be a complaint against Mike Johnson, certainly. But what legislation did you introduce in order to mandate and basically make the tariffs law? Or free up President Trump to be able to make it law? What steps have you taken? I don't know why it is that this hasn't at least passed through the House. Might struggle to get through Congress, through the Senate, but why has this not passed through the House? You're trying to make a claim that it's part of funding. Meaning, give Trump carte blanche to handle tariffs. The more tariffs that there are, assuming that the more likely it is to build American industry, to build domestic industry, or at least make domestic industry more competitive with some of the market players on the international stage. So you don't have to give them such broad things. Certainly with respect to China, where there's slave labor going on there, which we can never possibly compete with that. How are we supposed to compete with producing a lamp for 14 cents? And, stitching shoes by hand for 12.5 cents. You can't compete with that. So tariff the hell out of them. Where's Congress on that? Trump would love to tariff the hell out of them. Where are you? Stop American tax dollars from funding foreign wars. That I'm totally on board with 1,000% every single time. Or rebuild the value of the dollar. Passing effective legislation that gets signed to law is permanent, actually solves American problems. You know as well as I do, MTG, that the big problem really ultimately is the Senate. Because whatever you put out there, they're going to find some way of basically trying to scuttle it. So unless you find some way, which really means that you have to kill a filibuster. Nothing's going to happen unless they kill a filibuster. Now that House members are switching gears into campaign mode and will be fighting for their lives, our legislative majority has been mostly wasted. Our best shot was the first 6 to 9 months, and when Republicans likely lose the midterms, it will become total and complete political war and gridlock once again. The Uniparty always wins no matter which way the political pendulum swings, leaving the American people empty-handed. What is the convincing message for 2026 and likely 2028? It will be the American people asking candidates, what tangible thing have you done for me, and how did it or will it make my life better? This is all a great argument to abandon the filibuster because you can't get anything through Congress anymore. You can't, because the Senate, you can't, getting those 60 votes in the Senate is impossible. And then actually trying to get them to vote after both parties have failed them. Serious changes are needed and words are unconvincing. In a lot of ways, what she says here is true. That doesn't mean people are actually going to leave. Doesn't mean that we're going to lose a majority before this term. But a lot of what she says here is accurate. Can't argue with that. And just to follow up on this, since this ran this morning 4 hours ago, I've gotten countless text messages from House representatives agreeing with the sentiment that a lot of them are thinking of fleeing and saying, why the hell should we stay in Congress if all we're going to do is vote on censures and be a potted plant? I don't even know what that means. In what way are you more handicapped today than you were a year ago? What does that even mean? So Alex Bruce responds back saying the Republican Party owes its relevance and power entirely to Donald Trump. They rode his coattails to victory, leveraged his name for fundraising, and now some members are whining. What a joke. Time to get to work, end the filibuster, and deliver on the president's agenda. That's what we need to do. I've grown more and more convinced on this issue that we have to end the filibuster. It's coming anyway. There's no reason to let it come on their watch. So, yeah. Now, we were talking earlier about how do these seats get replaced? What happens to her seat? What happens if there's a mass exodus? How does that work? Bottom line is, actually, I was asking Grok this earlier. I did a quick check there. So I thought there's a special election, and there is a special election in most states. And including in Georgia. Excuse me, sorry about that. So they will have a special election, which the states are encouraged to do it as quickly as possible. This is different from a Senate vacancy. Senate vacancy can be filled by leadership, and different states have different regulations. So if in fact there's a senator who leaves, that would actually be appointed by the governor. And some states have regulations that the appointment has to be from someone from the same political party as the outgoing senator. But you have a special election, and the process takes 3 to 6 months, during which time there's no representation for that district. Currently, we only have 242 instead of 245. 219 to 213 is the count that I saw. Well, that doesn't make sense. So, yeah. So it should be, there could be a vacancy. And if in fact we dip into a minority, as soon as the day that happens, there will be a Democratic speaker. So even, and even if it happens, you know, even if it's just for 3 months or so, there will be a Democratic speaker for that period of time, which is kind of pathetic. Kind of pathetic. COVID showed everyone that some preachers will not go to jail for their congregation. Contrast Revolutionary War, where preachers went out and fought with their congregation. We need a warrior's heart like David to defeat giants. We're living in an age today where our character is far, far weaker than those of our forebears. That's what you're touching on here, guys. We're living in an age where the character is far weaker than it was of our forebears. It's not even in the same, it's not the same ballpark. So, and part of it is because of the way we raise our children and just in general culture, which is far softer, far more affluent than it was 250 years ago. So it shouldn't be that surprising, but that's just, a lot of what you say resonates with me because there's we have to deal with there's the way things should be and then there's what is. You and I can agree with what should be. And we do. You and I agree with what should be, but the reality is what is. So if we don't have men like that or men or people, if we're living in a society where this is considered outstanding and uncommon to have real leadership, genuine leadership, sort of need to work with what we have and figure out how to right the ship, given given a proper understanding of the relatively weaker character of the people who are in charge. Thanks. Just me? It's been a minute. See, you like some people like the earlier time. Good. It's good to see you, brother. If Congress would vote in Trump's agenda, they'd barely need to campaign. Landslide victory in GOP in 2026. It's true. It's true. The filibuster will hand us the election. You abolish the filibuster and you will win the election. It's a matter of being bold. It's having the cojones to do it. It's really that simple. Just having the cojones to do it. That's what they need to do. This way, you also don't have to worry about a shutdown. Here's the best motivation for it. Here's the best motivation to abolish a filibuster. If you have any qualms about abolishing it, the strongest motivation to abolish the filibuster is this. If you do not abolish filibuster, we will have a government shutdown on October 1st, 2026. Because that will be the end of our financial period. And you'll need to vote in a new, just like we had this year, that the financial period ends September 30th. And we'll have a shutdown on October 1st. The Democrats saw how effective it was. We will definitely have a shutdown. And that shutdown will run through the election. Because they saw how effective and powerful it was. And the fact that we know this will happen and that the Republicans are too weak in their messaging in order to properly pin that on the Democrats means you can't allow it to happen. Well, the best way to not allow it to happen is get rid of the filibuster. Make Chuck Schumer and his cronies utterly meaningless. And that way, if you're getting rid of the filibuster in order to help protect us from a government shutdown in October of 2026, which we definitely will, You know we will. We will have a 6-week shutdown, a 5-week shutdown minimum in October. We will definitely have that. So now you know you're going to need, you're either going to get buried. Like it's going to be like, it's like you congressmen and women on the Republican side, if there's a shutdown, the Democrats know that the American people will come out there with like machine guns and have your faces, just pictures of your faces there, and just be like, it will be a disaster. It will be a bloodbath. That's what we learned from the 2025 elections. That's what the American people showed in the 2025 elections, and Democrats definitely took note of that. So you can either be a complete moron and say, oh, we're going to let them basically take 300 seats in the next elections. We shut down the government and the Republicans get blamed for it and Trump gets blamed for it. Or we can say, no, go to hell. We're passing this because you're basically not you're not using the filibuster in good faith. The purpose of the filibuster, meaning the 60 vote rule instead of just a simple majority, the whole purpose behind it was that there was an objective of trying to encourage there to be healthy negotiations between the majority and the minority. That's why we have it, but they haven't had healthy negotiations ever since Obama came to office. And it's been like, well, whatever you say is stupid. So we don't want to hear from you. So even if you're saying the same thing I was saying 3 months ago, I'm going to vote against it. You can be promoting a bill that I was promoting 3 months ago. You can promote the exact same bill with a different name, and I'm going to vote against it because you're the one who's offering it. That's not a landscape, a political landscape. We actually have healthy negotiations. That's just pure partisan politics, which is not what the filibuster, there's no way for the filibuster to solve that. Because the only reason you're disagreeing with me is because it's words coming from my mouth instead of yours. Even if it's the same words, I'm repeating what you said 3 months ago, you're still going to say no. So this is not, so you're just basically trying to be jerks. That's not healthy. You're being childish and petty, pedantic, because you're looking to try and control the narrative and be able to say you won. But that's not Congress. That's not anything. That's just you being, that's playground debate. So what's the purpose of the filibuster at that point? Why have a filibuster? So that being the case, what makes sense is to basically say, if we're going to be abolishing the filibuster at some point in 2026, then you might as well be doing it now. You might as well do it now and pass your addenda and give voters a real reason to support you next November. That's what you do. Try this again. MTG asked people in the district for a 2-year job. She owes them 2 years. Don't run again, but fulfill your obligation. Good to see you too, drinking buddy. Oh, thank you. Yeah, there's no reason. There's no upside to resign unless it's a personal upside. That's the point. She could turn off her social media if she's getting her. She feels like too many Trump loyalists are harassing her. So go out there and vote. It's really simple. No, I have to do it my way. I'm sorry. There's something wrong here. And this is on MTG. No matter how much you want to defend her, this is on her. There's no reason to resign. Unless some people are speculating she doesn't want to share her financials. And that's not encouraging if you're an MTG fan. And again, she's far from the worst person in Congress, like very far down. Very far down. But at this point, I'm just like, I'm done with you. I lost my respect. I don't have vitriol and hate, but I'm like, no, I can't respect her any longer. You know what I'm saying? Most people in Congress, if I know their names, I dislike them. Most of them. Her, I'm just like, I don't have respect for you. I think you pretty much became that which you're espousing against. You're saying it from the whole America First type of perspective, which is going to resonate with people. It's going to resonate with people, but it's MTG first and America second. We are weak men and women. If men and women can save money to go to an effing football, basketball, boxing, or whatever that requires no faith at all. They can take proper advantage of their God-given right to vote. You're 100% right here. I wish you had. I'll give you a pulpit. I am giving you a pulpit right here, right now. I will give you a pulpit. Tell people, spend 20 minutes, a half hour, an hour of a year. If it takes that long, and get out there and vote. It doesn't even take that long. Most places you can vote by mail. Get out there and freaking vote. 100%. Checking over here in the T. Barracow says no statement is made unless she resigns. She's offended by Trump and Johnson. She has bills that complete MAGA agenda that are ignored. Do they? Dominion of Dark says Neuro tonight's live stream chat box with nonsense video on the side is set up for 9 p.m. Central. Be there or be human. Your choice. Well, those are two good choices. Bulldozer says, Joe, how much is her yearly pension and when is she eligible? Have you looked? No, I haven't looked. And like I said, I don't really have a problem with the pension thing. I think holding out for her pension is I think it's a fair question. I'll ask Rock real fast. If MTG retires after Gen 520, how much will her yearly pension be? I think it's a good question Bildozer's asking. Folks, he may not be alone in being curious about that. To me, Chuck saying Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of my favorite politicians right now. She's the only one that has shown she believes in term limits. That's funny. All right, quick breakdown here as to what her numbers are looking like. Courtesy of Grok. I don't think it's easy. I don't think anyone can say definitively, but to estimate her potential yearly pension, we need to consider the federal employees retirement system rules that she's covered under the FERS applicable to members of Congress elected after 1983. Let's break it down with several variables. Key factors for MTG pension: 1 year of service, so 5 years and 2 days. FERS requires minimum 5 years. She was born in 1974. On January 5th, she'll be 51. Minimum requirement is 50 under FERS 56 to 57, depending on birth year for 1974. It's approximately 56 years and 6 months. She says she's retiring for her MRA. Her pension will be due unless she delays receiving it. So, for members of Congress first covered by FERS after 2012, the accrual rate is 1% per year of service, unless they worked until age 62 with at least 20 years of service. Then it's 1.1. With 5 years of service and retiring before 62, our accrual rate is 1% per year. Oh my gosh. I want to try and get to the bottom of this here. Oh. I think this is what Bill Dozer's point is. She's talking about $10,000 a year, $8,700. Reduced pension would be $67,400. All right, that's a fair point. Now, still, I think that Bill Dozer correctly, and I appreciate you calling this out, Bill, is to a woman who's worth $25 million, that's not something she's going to even notice. So about $6,200 a year, $6,700 a year. Still, you stay there for an extra month to get your $6,700. But yeah, it's not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money for pension. Great job there, Bill. Forced me to look at that. Appreciate that. She's a typical spiteful woman, useless AF. I think that a lot of what she's arguing for, I agree with. I still think there's no reason for her to leave. She could just not run again. And she was running her mouth. And some of the things she said on The View, I was like, no, this sounds like woke crap. Brian Oldenkamp hit me with 20 new members of the following. God bless you, Brian Oldenkamp. Following 20 people were brought into the following, courtesy of Brian Oldenkamp. That would include. Scroll down here. Scroll down back up. When you hear your name, as a new member of the following, which is not at all a cult type of cult. It's a gathering of like-minded individuals who are seeking greater personal growth through community, unity, learning, and thinking. And that would include Ralph L. And when you hear your name as a member of this as a new member of this enlightening group, it would be appropriate if you can just express your gratitude to Brian Oldenkamp for giving you a gift which really no price could be set on it. But we try setting a price on it at being $5 a month. Can't really set a price, and yet somehow we did. Ralph L. 707, JL Dubs Music, Fumoff Fu 1974, One Peter SQ, Misty K, Ezra's Arts Atelier, Have to Me 8105, T_MMY_ Donnie Nash 8208, Vivian James, Gas Demon 2527, Scott VX7CV, Dissident Porcupine, Trump Vance, The Other Gygax. Wow, some tough names today. Tim for Seasons, and Possessana, Sui Generous, Manville 361, and My Avitech. All you are now members of the following. God bless you again. Brian Oldenkamp, thank you so much for bringing these people on in here. People need, we all need greater personal growth. We all do. I need it more than anyone. We all do. Maybe there's an organized plan to separate Trump's base. MTG gets bashed. ABC offers her a boatload of cash. Massey attacked. RFK attracted voters. I think it's possible. My gut is are there some people who are interested in ripping MAGA apart? Obviously, that's not to say that the fighting is lacking in an organic nature. Meaning, I love seeing infighting amongst the Democrats. I love seeing when they have your wacky statements from the Jasmine Crockett's of the world or the AOCs of the world, and then other people, being humiliated. And we're going to cover some of those humiliation stories soon. But that doesn't mean I'm doing anything to orchestrate it. I might enjoy it. I might really enjoy it. But to actually be orchestrating it rather than it happening naturally and of its own organic nature, those are two different things. There's a difference between creating the juice and savoring the juice. So I said juice. That's what I said. That's really what I meant. So it works best. It works better with tears, right? I can savor their tears, even if I'm not creating them. So I don't know. Some of the positions that Massey has taken, I strongly disagree with. I disagree with what Paul Rand did and what Massey wanted to keep the government shut. I think he was one who voted against reopening. I mean, voting against the tariffs. Even if you're a libertarian, you say, "Hey, Constitution says that this is our exclusive domain. President can't issue tariffs. Only we can." So you couldn't vote to give it to him because you definitely have the ability to delegate it. No one's arguing about that. So why are you not delegating it? Are you thinking he's doing a bad job here? So it's like when you make the principle the point, rather than actually bettering the lives of Americans the point, that's not to me something that's actually noble. Hey, welcome to the following, just me. Welcome indeed. All right. Speaking of enjoying tears. So if you're not on X, so first and foremost, you probably need to spend less time in confession. You're probably a holier person than those of us who are. But you also may be unaware of the developments that happened over this weekend. So X decided to roll out a new feature where you can click on a name and see where that account is from. You click on a name and you can see where that account is from. I'll give you an example. This person who I read here, I haven't checked him or her out. I don't know. I assume that this is probably some woman. Marquesa. Sounds like a woman's name. So when you come over here, it says join November. It's 2017. And look at that. It says account based in United States. See that? Account based in United States. Little American flags there. Lots of people got American flags, but that's a new feature. If you click on my account, you'll see here. First and foremost, you'll see that I'm live. I'm live streaming to X right now. And if you click on my name here, somewhere, there it is. I joined in April. That's right. I joined during lockdowns. And I had one username change last on January 2023. That's true. Account based in US. See that? Look at that. There you go. Connected via United States Android app. You'll find that, by the way, I actually made a request to change this back to Good Lawgic. I did. Now, what happened, though, was that some folks who seem to be very big talking about American politics, very, very important for them to weigh in about how they feel about things, who, came across as if they were all American and everything like that. Not so American. Not so much. Now, the left is all titillated about some of these MAGA accounts, Make America Great accounts, which are coming from the Far East or Africa. But the way that everything broke down was after this rolled out, so then some people got humiliated, and good on them. And then there was a thing showing DHS was in Israel, and they changed the policies to say that we're not going to be having this feature available on political accounts because that might jeopardize people, endanger them, or something to that effect, which had a lot of people basically say that they're shilling for Israel. Maybe they are. I don't know. Could be. It's hard for me to believe that DHS is based out of Israel, but I could see that there could likely be some people who are visiting from there. People who it has to be formed here, right? It's an official government agency. It sounds funny, but I had to call that to your attention that definitely happened. But so they briefly had paused it, saying we're not allowing you to use the feature anymore. And then they reinstated it and took it out for political accounts. Here's a breakdown of some of the names that got exposed So I want to check this out with you. According to Newsweek here, an account's country or origin can now be seen in the user's profile page. Now the locations of people, popular MAG accounts. See, she's all excited about exposing the MAG accounts. There are plenty of accounts on the left which also got exposed. Don't worry. Don't worry. But I think it's important to expose these posers for MAGA. I don't like having MAGA posers in there who are claiming like, oh, I'm all about coming in here as an American, when they're just full of crap. I want it to be, I want Americans influencing the American conversation. I don't want to have people from outside America having a profound influence on MAGA. So I actually, while they're sitting there gleefully all excited about these MAGA accounts being exposed, I too am in agreement. I want them exposed. Don't come at me, start pretending that you're like that you're in America if you're in Nigeria. Newsweek has reached out to X outside regular working hours by email for comment. Nikita Bayer, head of product at X, shared a post on November 22nd that X was set to roll out a new feature called About This Account, which will allow you to see the country or region where an account is based. Location is visible via clicking on the sign up date on an X profile. Bayer, I assume that's how you pronounce it, described the step as, quote, an important first step towards securing the integrity of the global town square, and said they plan to provide many more ways for users to verify the authenticity of the content they see on X. It was noted in a follow-up post that there are a few rough edges, and any incorrect data will be updated periodically, but responses to locations of different accounts and subsequent concerns over the authenticity of content have quickly flooded the platform. So Newsweek is going to identify for you the accounts that are MAGA and promote America First agenda, which are being based in countries including Chile, Nigeria, and Morocco. Here's Newsweek's lists. American Patriot, 140,000 followers on X. His bio reads U.S. Air Force veteran nuclear Ronald Reagan, JFK Jr., number 20, DJT, number 19, constitutionalists. They're from Chile. There you go. That's not a state. And if your geography is poor, Chile is not a state. It's not. It's not one of ours. Pretty far away, actually. America First Zero, which has 60,000 followers on X and whose bio reads Make America Great Again, has listed location of Bangladesh. Magascope, which has over 50,000 followers, is Nigeria. Maga Nadine, a female bodybuild 6, which says that in the bio that they are immigrants in the U.S. and they are a Trump lover, and has the MAGA in their bio and has over 390,000 followers, has a listed location of Morocco. Now, I had all sorts of questions about this. I do have questions about this because I don't want anyone who's going to be, if I end up like visiting a country and staying there for 3 weeks, are they all of a sudden going to tell me that I'm Italian? Like, what happens with that? The account MAGA Nation X, whose bio reads Standing Strong with President Trump, America First Patriot for We the People, has over 390,000 followers. And they're listed being part of the Eastern Europe, which is not in the European Union. Now, another thing people are going to say is maybe they're just using VPNs, which we haven't heard back on that. They're going to claim VPNs. Most people are going to claim VPNs. The location listed account Dark MAGA Coin, which has over 15,000 followers, is Thailand. Now, 15,000 followers, and getting down to 50,000 followers, this is how you know that Newsweek is desperately trying to just come up with names. Because 15,000 followers, while it's probably more followers than most people who are watching the show right now, it's not considered someone who's like an influencer. I don't even consider my 60,000 to be like an influencer. If you don't have 100,000 followers, MAGA Raw 4896, 3,000. Listen, look at them. Newsweek. This is Newsweek showing we're complete cuck losers. They have 3,000 followers based in East Asia and the Pacific. This is more embarrassing for Newsweek than it is for MAGA World 4896. Who the heck knows what MAGA World 4896 is? Over 3,000 followers. And if they're following 7,000 people and they just did this follow and return, see, this is just humiliating for them. I'm curious. I want to check out this MAGA World 4896. I need to check them out. I want to see. What an embarrassment for Newsweek. It's so sad. You're pathetic. Yeah, here they are. 3,600 followers. This is humiliated. Oh, humiliated. Newsweek is so stupid. Anyway, Forbes did a similar list where they did not do exclusively MAGA. So let's check them out because they're at least trying to look less biased than Newsweek is. These big political X accounts apparently aren't US based, exposed by new X update. So, right wing poster Ian Miles Cheong. Now, this is a guy, he goes by Still Gray, is his name. I've interacted with him. He's previously admitted to his 1.1.2 million followers that he's not US based and is based in the UAE, according to his X profile. He's since slammed the update as a privacy violation. Well, boo-hoo for you. Boo-hoo for you. Yeah. Oh, he changed his Still grade to Ian Miles. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I've never been a fan of this guy. I've never been a fan of this guy. So, but he never claimed to be living in America. That is true. I just don't understand why so many MAGA seem to support this guy. Pro-Trump account with 1 million followers, Ivanka News, which is not affiliated with Ivanka Trump. And I can appreciate that Forbes pointed that out. That's another thing. I stay away in general, personally. If you're on X, I stay away from all these things that try and take a name and then throw news after it to try and say, I'm special and important. It's like, I don't know what the heck. It's designed to make me think that of Ivanka. Make me think you're Ivanka weighing in. It feels very leechy. Very, very leechy to me. So they're based out of Nigeria. And they've claimed to have voted for Trump in previous posts. This post from a suspended account. Oh, Ivanka Trump News got suspended. Oh, like I said, I don't really have much love for them for those. An account called MAGA Nation, nearly 400,000 followers, appears to be Eastern Europe, according to his X profile. The account is dedicated to pro-Trump content and claimed to have voted for Republicans. Let's check this one out. Did they really make that claim? This is exactly what I voted for, accountability. Yeah, you didn't vote for nothing. You didn't vote for nothing. An account called America First with 67,000 followers who said, I am a former liberal who voted Trump in a post in May is apparently based in Bangladesh, according to his X profile. Screenshots circulating X claim Republicans Against Trump, an anti-Trump account with nearly 1 million followers, is Austria-based. So this is Republicans Against Trump, which is properly acronymed with RAT, is Austria-based. Nice. 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 I hate these people. I've seen their posts. Their posts get thrown into my feed all the time. All the time. Some accounts that appear to have been outed as non-US based no longer exist. NBC News reported an account called Trump is My President was listed as Macedonia based, which I thought that was a made up country, and is now deactivated, while an account called Ultra MAGA Trump USA 2028, which claimed to be US based, was listed as African and now suspended for unknown reasons. And here's pictures of links to them. There's another guy, Alex Cole, who got exposed also. He's a big time liberal who basically he's basically a liberal troll who's very popular with the left. He's a leftist troll. Let me see if I can find Alex Cole for you. He was listed in that article. I think they updated the article from when I think it was Alex Cole, wasn't it? What's this? Wasn't that his name? Yes, the black guy really is that his name, Alex Cole? Did I get that wrong, Rafe? All right, thanks. I don't know why it is. It is Alex Cole. Yeah. Maybe he's gone. Maybe he's gone. Yeah, maybe he deleted. That's probably that's very possible what happened. He tried pretending. Maybe Libs of TikTok talk about it. I think Libs of TikTok might have did something. Might referenced him. I think she had something on him in the last couple of days. I'm gonna do a quick search for it. I have a vague recollection of her referencing him. She's such a prodigious. I like this. The Seditious Six. She's such a prodigious poster that like finding something she posted like more than 3 hours ago takes a minute. Takes a minute. I'm running out of patience here. Come on, Libs of TikTok. Could have sworn I saw it there. That's it. AC Newsistics. Yes. Yes. All right, let me see if I can find it. That really sounds right. Here he is. He's still around. Wait. So here's this guy. Thank you. 327,000 followers this jackass has. And when you check his profile, now it says America. It has American flag in Canada. All of a sudden. All of a sudden, because of this, connected by this was saying Canada before. Thank you, Azelian, for finding that for me. And his real name is Nicholas Herius. I saw that too. Let's see if we can find. Nicholas Herius, paid influencer of the Democratic Party, is not even American. He tries to act as if he is, since exposure is try update all social, try and hide. Yeah. So not a good day for him either. Like I said, people got caught on both sides. It's good to have the exposure. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. We need more sunlight. More sunlight. More sunlight, I say. Hark yes. Indeed. So 6 weeks until the January 6th statute of limitation expires. 1 year wasted. How is that pipe bomber case going? DOJ needs to be shaken up fast. Yeah, I've run out of patience for Pam. I said I'd give her some time. I've given her some time. I've run out of patience. I have. Patience has run thin. It's run threadbare. My patience has been threadbare. I'm sorry. We should have gone a lot more than 3 indictments. Nothing really. If you count Bolton, where's the indictment of Schiff right now? Where's that? This is weak and ineffective. That's how I feel about our DOJ. It's weak and ineffective. But hopefully Pete Hegseth is better. Hopefully.
If it's deep.
We'll see. We'll see. Because last week we were covering stories about the Seditious Six, as they've been aptly named since then. These are the 6 members of Congress who came out and made a 90-second video basically urging our military to defect if you deem some order to be unconstitutional, which is actually even more retarded than it sounds. And it seems as if repercussions may be coming and coming fast.
Well, we believe it's deeply unfortunate that these Democrat senators made this egregious and completely irresponsible statement. And let's be very clear, Martha, these Democrat senators knew exactly what they were doing. It's not a coincidence that all of them have military or national security experience in their background. They were leaning into that experience to try and give a wink and a nod to the 1.3 million active duty service members who serve in our United States Armed Forces, and essentially encourage them to defy the orders of their commander-in-chief, which is illegal, by the way. Let me be very clear. Not a single order this president or administration has given to our military has ever been illegal, nor will it ever be. This administration respects and abides by the law, and these officials know it. They are trying to sow chaos and distrust, which is a very dangerous thing to do within the military's ranks. The sanctity of our military respects and relies on law and order in the chain of command. And that's what this administration is trying to say. And that's why the Department of War opened up this investigation against Senator Mark Kelly today.
Yeah. You have to wonder at this point if they retrospectively think this was a good idea or a bad idea, because it doesn't seem to be working the way that they wanted it to. And now they're kind of stepping all over themselves, trying to answer the question of what they were talking about in the first place. But, you know, you make a good point that it sows, they were hoping to sort of sow this distrust. Go ahead,
they can't answer the question.
And that was the objective here. The objective was to sow the distrust. And frankly, they're probably targeting our generals. They're probably, because those are the ones who are most likely to listen to it. The rank and file are strongly MAGA. It's the upper echelons, which you have a much deeper blend of when you're talking about the generals and colonels, we have a much deeper blend of wokeism kicking in.
Martha, because there is no answer. They can't identify illegal orders because there are no illegal orders. But they were suggesting, again, to the 1.3 million active duty service members in the military today that if you think an order is illegal, you don't have to follow it. Actually, that's against the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It explicitly states, and I want to read this language precisely, that service members have a legal obligation under the U.S. UCMJ to obey lawful orders, and that orders are presumed to be lawful. You can't have a soldier out on the battlefield or conducting a classified order questioning whether that order is lawful or whether they should follow through. There must be a chain of command in our military, and Republicans and Democrats for decades, since the beginning of our country, have always respected that until now, when the Democrat Party has been completely overtaken by Trump derangement syndrome. And now we have these deranged statements from sitting members of Congress.
Yep. And she's completely correct. I have them start questioning. The default is an assumption that it is constitutional, and to have them basically start second guessing everything is asinine, and it's willfully designed to try and demoralize our military. That's the objective. And repercussions seem as if they may be coming. Here's the official statement from the Department of War. The Department of War has received serious allegations of misconduct against Captain Mark Kelly, USN retired, in accordance with the Uniform Code of Military Justice 10 U.S.C. 688, which allows for them to recall a retired member of the military. And other applicable regulations. A thorough review of these allegations has been initiated to determine further actions, which may include recall to active duty for court-martial proceedings or administrative measures. This matter will be handled in compliance with military law, ensuring due process and impartiality. Further official comments will be limited to preserve the integrity of the proceedings. The Department of War reminds all individuals that military retirees, and this is an important thing, it specifically applies to retirees, not people who just leave the military, remain subject to the UCMJ for applicable offenses and federal laws such as 18 U.S.C. 2387. We're going to look at this in just a moment. Prohibit actions intended to interfere with the loyalty, morale, or good order and discipline of the armed forces. Any violations will be addressed through appropriate legal channels. All service members are reminded they have a legal obligation under the UCMJ to obey lawful orders and that orders are presumed to be lawful. A service member's personal philosophy does not justify or excuse the disobedience of an otherwise lawful order. Well said. Well written by the Department of War. And here's Pete Hegseth weighing in on it. The video made by the Seditious Six was despicable, reckless, and false. Encouraging our warriors to ignore the orders of their commanders undermines every aspect of good order and discipline. Their foolish screed sows doubt and confusion, which only puts our warriors in danger. Obviously true. 5 of the 6 individuals in the video do not fall under Department of War jurisdiction. 1 is CIA, and 4 are former military but not retired, so they are no longer subject to the UCMJ. However, Mark Kelly, retired Navy commander, is still subject to UCMJ, and he knows it. As was announced, the department is reviewing his statements and actions which were addressed directly to all troops while explicitly using his rank and service affiliation, lending the appearance of authority to his words. Kelly's conduct brings discredit upon the armed forces and will be addressed appropriately. Go get him. Go get him. And frankly, I don't like the idea that only 1 out of 6 will be held accountable, because all 6 of them should be held accountable. Now, we look at that statute that was referenced by the Department of War, 18 U.S.C. 2387. I'll pull it up here for you. You can see I pulled it up recently. Whoever with intent to interfere with, impair, or influence the loyalty, morale, and discipline of the military and naval forces of the United States advises, counsels, urges, or in any manner causes or attempts to cause insubordination, disloyalty, mutiny, or refusal of duty by any member of the military or naval forces of the United States, or distributes or attempts to distribute any written or printed material which advises, counsels, or urges insubordination, disloyalty, mutiny, or refusal of duty by any member shall be fined under this title, and they face up to 5 years. Up to 5 years. Now, it could be that you're more likely to get actual justice by a military tribunal than you are in a court of law, because you have to ask yourself, what jurisdiction is this likely to be brought in? And seeing as how it's in Washington, where sadly partisan politics are run very, very deeply, you're unlikely to get a conviction against a Maggie Goodlander or a Jason Crow, Chrissy Houlihan, whatever her name is. So that being the case, I think it's good to start with a military tribunal. Start with Mark Kelly, maybe see how that goes, and perhaps if you get a conviction there, that could serve as a means of encouraging folks to say, hey, what they did here was really wrong. It was really illegal. So, and when you saw it, you probably thought to yourself, I don't know if that's illegal, but it should be. I don't know if that's illegal, but it definitely should be. Everyone knew that was wrong. You have to be. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. They knew they were encouraging disloyalty from our military, and they trying to hide their words by saying, we're just telling people what the law is. They have to follow the Constitution. But that's not what they did. What they did was they basically, telling people they have to follow the Constitution is standing on its face. There's nothing wrong with that. When you say in conjunction with that this administration is issuing unconstitutional orders, now that changes the entire nature of what you're expressing. Changes it into you basically saying you should not be listening to him. If you are, you may be held for committing a crime. They're trying to imply a threat there. They're trying to imply that when we come back into power, we're going to prosecute you for following his orders. We don't want to hear from you that you were following orders. We're telling you now, don't. So it's a very, very scary time. And here's Senator Mark Kelly giving his stupid explanation and response. This came out shortly after Department of War and Pete Hegseth made their statements on X. Here's his response. When I was 22 years old, I commissioned as an ensign in the United States Navy and swore an oath to the Constitution. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You need some music, right? Which music should we go? I'm afraid I don't want to offend anyone. I'm not worried about offending this clown. He is a clown. All right, we'll be a little more conservative tonight. I upheld the oath through flight school, multiple deployments in the USS Midway, 39 combat missions and Operation Desert Storm, test pilot school, 4 space shuttle flights at NASA, every day since I retired. Not every day. Which I did after my wife Gabby was shot in the head while serving her constituents. Feel bad for me. Give me sympathy. I'm a widower. Give me sympathy. So what if I broke the law and demoralized our troops? Give me sympathy. In combat, I had a missile blow up next to my jet and flew through anti-aircraft fire to drop bombs on enemy targets. No, this is not relevant. None of this is relevant. And NASA, I launched on a rocket, commanded the space shuttle, and was part of the recovery mission that brought home the bodies of my astronaut classmates who died on Columbia. What? The astronaut classmates They were in space? No, I guess where they landed. I did all this in service of the country that I love and has given me so much. And then I tried destroying that country with my message the other day. Secretary Hegseth's tweet is the first I heard of this. Look at him flashing his medals here. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Don't judge me for demoralizing our military and engaging in illegal conduct and court-martial me because I've done all this. Yeah, well, you know what? It doesn't justify anything. None of this justifies what you did. Appreciate your service. But yeah, you got your acclaim for that. You should get the merit for the merit and the shame for the shame. And right now, the shame and disgrace is an Owen. It's an Owen in your way. It's a coming your way. It's well deserved. Hegseth's tweet is the first I heard of this. I also saw President post saying I should be arrested, hanged, and put to death per trial. That's what he said. If this is meant to intimidate me and other members of Congress from doing our jobs, you're not doing your jobs. And holding this administration accountable, it won't work. I've given too much of this country to be silenced by bullies who care more about their own power than protecting the Constitution. You don't give a damn about protecting the Constitution. That's the problem. You don't give the slightest damn about protecting the Constitution. You're trying to use the Constitution as a bludgeon. Wrongly using the Constitution by mislabeling lawful orders as being unlawful and violative of the Constitution. So you're trying to weaponize the Constitution for your own personal agenda. You're hijacking the Constitution. It's the least patriotic thing possible because you're basically taking the Constitution and saying, here's my reason I'm telling you shouldn't listen to Trump. Here's my reason for demoralizing the military. You're using what is a properly recognized by Americans as a sacred document to try and carve and rip into our military. This makes you a terrible human being. And your past heroic deeds, which I will assume for the purposes of this conversation are every bit as heroic and perhaps more so than what you lay out here in this tweet, have no bearing on that. Because you are now using the Constitution that you so desperately dedicated your life towards defending as a bludgeon to harm the current administration. Improperly using it. That's the problem. So you can look at it as you were helping protect the Constitution so that you could later use it as an axe to destroy the military. So no, you're not a hero. Coming out here like you're sitting here like I'm sitting here like I'm being silenced by bullies. No, you're trying to sit here and attack our military. That's what you're trying to do. Because you're so bent out of shape out of Donald Trump that you're like, no, I need to harm the military. You're not the hero in this story. So while you can sit there dressing yourself up in your medals and your ribbons and all the things that you likely properly earned, I assume you properly earned, but to use that as a basis to try and bludgeon our current military is absolutely disgraceful, and you deserve every bit of disgrace coming your way. And frankly, they can't do enough to punish you. So there you go. There you go. That's what I got for you. I'm hoping you do the call-in show so I can call in to remind you about setting up that thing for me. LOL, great show so far. You didn't need to remind me. I already had set up. I'm a step ahead of you. So there you go. But I appreciate the level all the same. But we are nearing the end of our show. It's around that time of day. Those of you who join late, I'm telling you that this is the new time. I plan on doing my shows scheduled in for 6:30 p.m. And my objective is to roll out behind Robert Gouveia. And I'm not sure if the redirect worked today or not. I'm really not. But I do plan on coming back here tomorrow at 6:30, and this will be my regular time going forward for the foreseeable future. So I thank those of you who joined me. I will remind you all that if you're not yet hit the like and subscribe, I'd be most obliged if you could. Also, if you happen to come across some lab meat, just keep on walking because it's not meant for you. It's meant for they, them. And do not wait. I gotta make sure we didn't hit I don't think we hit the goal. If we hit the goal and I got that wrong, that'd be terrible. my last check, we had a little bit of a ways. We hit the goal, and I got. No, okay, all right. Okay. Certainly wouldn't want to shortchange anyone. All right. I thank you all for joining me. Do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't do it. I will see you all, God willing, tomorrow evening at 6:30. Till then, have a great night. And as always, Godspeed.